Okay, hello and welcome, and today we are fixing and servicing Toyota cars, and thank you, and then we continue. Hello and welcome, how are you doing? Next I'd like to show you that how to replace this Toyota Corolla cars, this timing belt, what is inside in that aluminium cover. And now this my presentation and information video covers those engine sides what are this US 1.8 liter gasoline engine and then 1.6 liter engine and also 1.3 liters these Toyota Corolla's engines. Okay, and then we continue. Okay, and my first task when I am planning to do this project is to take this washer fluid canister and tank away, and there is only one bolt in here, 10 millimeter, and I have already removed that, and then there is this fuel, this washer tank hose in here, what I have taken also away, and there is this support point, and I little bit move that in here, and then I lift up, and then of course there are those two cables what we need to unhook in here, and there we have those cables what we need to unconnect, and this was this first task, and then we continue. Okay, and then when we have this engine in that side, our next task is to take this drive belt away, what is in here, and now I am talking that belt, and it happens so that we need to go to loosen these alternator bolts, and there is a couple of interesting bolts in here what we need to next open, and let's go to look those bolts. Okay, and then our that next task is to take, we are now in below of this engine area, and this is this front bumper, it is in here, and there is this oil sump and engine. We need to take this plastic cover out, and there is that kind of 10 millimeter small bolts what I have in my hand, and in that area, and in here and here and in that area. And then when we take those all bolts away, where is this whole location in here, 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 and in here, and here, and in here, we can take this plastic cover out. And then we can see in here this engine area, and we can go to look that area closer, and there is oil, drying bolt and exhaust manifold, and then when we look in here we can see in that area there is this alternator and there is drive belt, and this is our next target. And there is then, when we start to look this upper area, I take a couple of tools. Okay, and here we can see that there is this alternator and there is two interesting bolts. First bolt is in that one, and for that we need 12 millimeter, 2 millimeter bolt, and this is like this locking bolt what we need to open, and there is this, and this opening happens so that I only move in that way in this bolt, and about 5 times that this is loosened, I open that bolt. This is my target. And then when this bolt is free, and that means that this bolt must move in that way, then we have next task, what is a little bit bigger. And now we need new two socket, what size is 13, like 1, 3, and I replace that, and now I have 13mm socket, and then I install that my socket in here. Look, in that bolt, what is in there. And now we can see that better. It is now good position. And then we need to rotate that bolt like quite long amount. Like first like five small things, and then we need to go in this upper area to loosen second this locking bolt, and then we need to come back in here. But next we go to look that upper bolt what we need to loosen also. Okay, and now we are in this upper area, and here is this our second locking bolt. It is that one, and now we need 14 little bit bigger socket what fits in here, and then we need to open that bolt, and this bolt could be quite tight, and that's we need a little bit longer tool. If you have difficulties, then we take in that amount of tool, and now we have, when we compare that friends and that one, we have 3 times more power. We are like Superman, because now we have so much force, and then when I insert that in here, this bolt opens easily, and we need to only move in that way. And now when I open that bolt, it could be so lucky that this belt is also loosened, but normally it is not so easy, because we need to rotate that bolt what I just a little bit earlier I moved. There was this 13mm bolt. Now I replace that socket in 1, 3, like 13, and then I insert that in here, and in that bolt I need to do next that kind of job something like 5 minutes, and then this drive belt becomes loosened. Let's look. It must be so loosened like in here that it moves. And then this is our target. And then we can also look that actually look and move that alternator, and when it moves everything is fine. But key is that bolt in here. And then remember, normally there is alternator. And there is radiator. And work really carefully that you don't damage in that head this alternator what is in here now. And now I have take that my radiator away, because there is always risk that when I hit that my radiator it can damage. But okay, but now target is in that our drive belt is so loosened. This is our target. Okay, and then when you have managed to do this so loosen that it moves like that, this way, then I can take this drive belt so that only I little bit move that in here in that way, and now drive belt is away. And then when we look in that area in here, I can little bit move that my drive belt, and soon it is free. Okay, excellent. And if you have air condition system, there is same idea that this belt only away. Good. And now we are in that step. This is good, because next we start to open that cylinder head cover. It's our next job. Okay, and of course there is this small plastic cover where are those 2 screws in here. Now I have taken that already away, but we open these screws in here in that way, and I can show also that cover. it is that kind of plastic cover, what is now away, but it is good to take first these two bolts in away. And there is one bolt in here, and second is in that side, in here, in that area. And I open also that bolt. Okay, good. And there was similar bolt. And then this cable is free, but then we need to take this cable away in this alternator area, because it is little bit, it makes difficult our job, and that's we go to look then this alternator, what is in there is alternator, and I take this cover out, and there is 10 mm bolt, and I have 10 mm, and I open that nut in here in that way. I rotate that out, and then I insert that nut back in here, and then there is this cable set, and then there I only press that side and pull out in that way. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, an idea is that in that area, in here I press, and then this part opens. Press and pull out. And then in that lower area there is one oil sensor, and we take that also out next. Okay, and then when we take this sensor out, its location is in here, and I only press that down area a little bit and then pull out, like in that way. Small pressing, small pressing, and then pull out. And there is this cable, and idea is that in that position I press that area, this one in that way, and then pull out. There is this inside part is moving. Press and pull out. And there is this sensor. And now this cable is free, and then we can continue. Okay, and now when these cables are free, I can lift these things in here. It is important. And then I continue that my job. Okay, and then it's time to take this cylinder head cover out, and for that job first I take these spark plug cables out, and this opens so that I carefully move only that part, no ever that wire. That part I little bit rotate and then pull out in that way. And then little bit movement and out, and movement and out. Okay, and then they are in here, and then these are two cables what we need to open using tongs. And like that kind of small tongs are excellent. Then I insert that my tongue in here, and then I carefully move that in here, and then that second one also. And then a little bit movement, and these hoses are away. And then we need 10 mm this socket, 10 mm, and then this bar and this T-bar like, and then when I insert that in here, I only rotate, and then these nuts are easy to open. There is that kind of specific nut, and 4 pieces, and And in that nut opening, what is in here, I need to take this cap away. There's second. And then third. And fourth. There is all nuts in my hand. And then I insert that cap in back in here. And then we take that cover out, and normally it can be a little bit tight, and that's we need next hammer. Like hammer, and carefully we hit that in these positions. Do not hit hard, because this aluminium cover can damage. And then trick is that we use that other side where are those hooks, and then I insert that in this. There is a small hole between in here, in that area. Let's go to look that closer, that we can see that what hole is in there. And there is this hole, small hole, and in these holes I insert my tool, and then I little bit bend that in that way, and then it starts to move, and then I bend in that area also carefully, and also in that area carefully, and then finally this cover start to open. And let's look that more in that position. And then I have used also in that corner in carefully. Do this job carefully, because there is gasket in there, that we don't damage this gasket. And in here, and then it finally opens. Now it already moves, and then it's important to take these plates what are in here and here away, that they are in a safe place, and they are specific plates what are in my hand. And there. Then I insert my tool again in here. Now it is, that area is free, and here. Okay, now one plate moves. Please be carefully, because do not lost these. And now this cover is free, and I can carry it out. Okay, and then we continue. Okay, and then we need this jack that we can lift this car body a little bit up. And it's our next job, that we need to little bit lift that car body up. And let's go to insert that jack in below of this car body, actually engine body. Okay, and now when I have installed this jack in below of this engine body, I can take this mounting area, mounting this right engine mountings away, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 bolts what I need to open, and also in here is 2 bolts in below, and I need to next take those all of bolts away, that I can take this mounting away. Because this mounting, when we take this timing belt away, this mounting is like your stopper. If we don't take that away, then we can't replace this timing belt. And then I continue. Okay, and there is this my hoist, and it is just keeping this engine. It is just below of this oil sump, and now it support this our work, and engine is in like right position. Okay, and then we continue. Okay, and then I need to take out that bolt, that one, and there in this other side. There is also one in here, and I take those bolts out, and they are 15 millimeter, and these are 12 millimeter bolts, and this is also 15. And now I take these bolts out, and then that one, and then we have two hidden bolts in here in below area. But first I take those bolts away. Okay, and here is my tool, and in that job it's good that if we have a little bit longer bar in here, because then it is easier to rotate, and then we need a little bit longer tool, because these bolts can be tight, and there is this my tool, and look, I have long this my tool, and then when I rotate, these bolts opens easily, like in that way. And in that area we had second, and I open also that. And note, this my tool is long. This is like 60 centimeters, more than 2 feet. And this is long. And then this all bolts opens easily. And then there is that bolt, what is in here, and I open also that. And then I take those bolts next out. And also in here there was those two. There is then this 12 millimeter, little bit smaller bolts what are in there. And I open also those, and then that one. And then I take this one big bolt away, that we can see that what is the sides. I rotate that in that way. Now it runs nicely, and in that way they are easy to take. And this is specific Toyota's bolt, not the standard bolt. Okay, and then I take those bolts away, and then we continue. Okay, and then we need to look in there. We are in this engine below area, and then when we look in here, there is this engine, there is oil sump, oil drain bolt, and then when we look in here upper area, we can see that just in there up, when I show, there are those our bolts. They are in here. They are in so deep, and that means that when we are now planning to open this, we need this long tool, and I have in here this my tool, what is quite long. And when we look at my tool, I will show first it is 15, size is 15 millimeter socket. And then this length is so long. There is this my T-bar is in this end, and then this length is about like 1.5 feet, like 50 centimeters. And it goes then, when I install that my tool, it goes in that way in here, and in that position I can open these bolts. Look. This is interesting. And there is then this my bolt area. And in that position I can open those, and then let's go to look at how to open those. I insert my tool in here. It is in there, and then I start to rotate. Now it opens, and then I rotate that my tool. And the idea is that when I have this long bar, it is easy to open, and there we have this bolt, and this bolt looks like that. It is in that kind of bolt, and the idea is that we have long bar, and then I take that second bolt also away, and then this our mounting is free, and we can lift and do new things. Okay, and now when these all mounting bolts are away and release, I can only carefully lift up this engine mounting, this thing, and it looks like that. And it is interesting tool. There is this rubber what eliminates engine vibrations. Okay, cool. And then when we have that area free, next step is then to take this plastic cover, what are those parts, out in this upper area, and then I think that actually we need to take this crankshaft wheel, what is in this lower area, this in here, that part, the lowest wheel, away, because it is normally quite difficult. Okay, let's do that next, because it is difficult job. Okay, and now when these all mounting bolts are away and release, I can only carefully lift up this engine mounting, this thing, and it looks like that. And it is interesting tool. There is this rubber what eliminates engine vibrations. Okay, cool. And then when we have that area free, next step is then to take this plastic cover, what are those parts, out in this upper area, and then I think that actually we need to take this crankshaft wheel, what is in this lower area, this in here, that part, the lowest wheel, away, because it is normally quite difficult. Okay, let's do that next, because it is difficult job. Okay, and there is then this crankshaft wheel, and especially this central bolt. And this bolt is maybe the most tightest bolt in engine, and there for that job opening we need 17mm socket, and then this bar, actually a little bit longer bar. And then there is first issue that when I start to rotate that, I notice that hey, this crankshaft wheel is moving. And now there is situation that for that purpose Toyota, they have made in here two holes that we can insert in here this Toyota specific tool. But now, because I don't have that tool, I show that what kind of tool we have to do by self. It is like modification tool. And let's go to look that tool building next. Okay, and how to do that tool? First we need some kind of metallic pipe and that kind of support bar, and I found excellent pipe because there was already those holes. Otherwise, if we don't have this suitable metallic pipe, what thickness is, by the way, 2 mm. This must be a little bit thicker plate, steel plate, and note this is steel, no any plastic or wooden, because they can go broken. And otherwise we need to do holes in here, and this length is something like little bit like 4 feet and like 1 meter and 20 centimeters, 1.2 meters. And this is quite long metallic bar. And then I have cut also smaller bar, and this is like 1 feet, like 30 centimeters. And then we need couple of bolts, standard bolts and nuts. And here I have also a couple of nuts, and actually we need at least 3 nuts, and they can be something like that size and distance about something like 3 inches, 6 to 7 centimeters, and thickness is like half inches, like 5-6 millimeters. And how to then assemble this tool? This is that end area, and there is this second area, and first bolt we need to install in that way, and it should be striked. This has been damaged a little bit, but I need to bend that back, and we install first bolt in here, what is a little bit longer. Its length is at least this something like 4 or 3 inches, like about 10 centimeters, and it's first one. And then I insert that my smaller bar in that distance, what is something like 30 centimeters in that point, and then there must be holes, because I install this one bolt what is in here in that position. I install it is in here in that way, and then we need small plate in there, and then nut, and then I fasten that in that way. And now we have this tool is almost ready, and actually these things must be in same line, and that's I need to little bit move that more away, because it must be a little bit more far away in that position. Okay, now they are in same line. This is must that they are in that position, and then I go back in here. Okay, now this tool is ready, and then this final third bolt, it becomes in here. And now our tool is ready, and these bolts goes to this crankshaft wheels holes. And let's go to install then this in this wheel. Okay, and how to do that tool? First we need some kind of metallic pipe and that kind of support bar, and I found excellent pipe because there was already those holes. Otherwise, if we don't have this suitable metallic pipe, what thickness is, by the way, 2 mm. This must be a little bit thicker plate, steel plate, and note this is steel, no any plastic or wooden, because they can go broken. And otherwise we need to do holes in here, and this length is something like little bit like 4 feet and like 1 meter and 20 centimeters, 1.2 meters. And this is quite long metallic bar. And then I have cut also smaller bar, and this is like 1 feet, like 30 centimeters. And then we need couple of bolts, standard bolts and nuts, and here I have also a couple of nuts, and actually we need at least 3 nuts, and they can be something like that size and distance about 2, something like 3 inches, 6 to 7 centimeters, and thickness is like half inches, like 5-6 millimeters. And how to then assemble this tool? This is that end area, and there is this second area, and first bolt we need to install in that way, and it should be striked. This has been damaged a little bit, but I need to bend that back, and we install first bolt in here, what is a little bit longer. Its length is at least this something like 4 or 3 inches, like about 10 centimeters, and it's first one, and then I insert that my smaller bar in that distance, what is something like 30 centimeters in that point, and then there must be holes, because I install this one bolt what is in here in that position. I install it is in here in that way, and then we need small plate in there, and then nut, and then I fasten that in that way. And now we have this tool is almost ready, and actually these things must be in same line, and that's I need to little bit move that more away, because it must be a little bit more far away in that position. Okay, now they are in same line. This is must that they are in that position, and then I go back in here. Okay, now this tool is ready, and then this final third bolt it becomes in here. And now our tool is ready, and these bolts goes to this crankshaft wheels holes. And let's go to install then this in this wheel. Okay, and here is our target, and there come this our tool what is in like ready, and then I a little bit move that, and there are those bolts, and idea is that I insert these bolts in these holes, and it's important that I rotate that wheel in position that these bolt holes are in here plain in that way. Okay, now they are fine. There is now 2 holes in here, and then I insert these my tools, and first one goes in there, and then if we have just that size of bolt, this bolt also goes in here very fine. It is like just like made this hole, and it goes in there, and then we can a little bit press those inside, and now we have this support thing in here. An idea is then when it is in here down, idea is then that I take in my second hand in grip in here, and the other hand takes this another socket. One hand is in here, and second is here in this up position in here. Okay, and first I insert that in here, and then I notice that this is too short. I need small extra bar in here, and soon we continue. Okay, and here is this our crankshaft puller wheel, and idea is that there is 2 holes in here where we install this my tool, and there is this my tool, and firstly this first bolt goes in there. It is good to insert deeper, and then this my specific bolt what fits just in there in that way. And then there was so great idea that I can even fasten that bolt, because there was this it was so suitable that when I take 17mm socket, I can fasten that in that way. Okay, and now this is quite fine in there, and if this is not enough durable, we can insert in here better bolts, but this is the idea. And then I have this opening socket, 17mm, what fits in here central in that way. And then note, this is tight bolt, and that's I need in so long this bar, and then in that bar it is also it need to be long. And then when situation is that, I can start to open that so that I only start to rotate that in this way, and I keep one hand in here. Note in this lower area what I am doing. Look in here, I have one hand in here, that, and second in here, and then I move that in this way. And this bolt is tight, but now I have already managed to open that, because I worked a little bit before, but this is tight, and in some position we can insert that so that this metallic bar takes contact in some body area. Or if we have assistant who, if this is difficult to open, we can ask that some of our friends keep that in hand, and then we rotate that opening bolt in that way. And now this bolt is free. And then there is option what I made, that when this crankshaft feel it moves. This wheel moves really easily when this bolt is tight. I inserted that my tool in that position, and then it takes this metallic contact in here in that position. Okay, but now this bolt is free, and then I can open this crankshaft puller wheel bolt, and this is important. And next I think that I little bit hammer that wheel and it opens. Okay, and now when this central bolt is free, this crankshaft puller wheel should open quite easily. But now it is little bit tight, but I have hammer and I carefully hammer that in here. In hits are in here. Then when it moves already in that part, and also in okay, and I think that I can use also some other tool. Okay, and this crankshaft puller wheel opens so that I have hammer, and then I bend that in here a little bit and in back area, and I move, and now it opens. Okay, good, and then we continue. Okay, and then we need a 10mm socket what fits in these bolts, and there is now something like 5 to 10 bolts what we need to open in that way. All of these in here we need to open, and first we open all of these bolts, and I show that what they looks like when I take one away. They are easy to open, and they are similar in that size and look. And next, all of those bolts in here and also in upper area in here we take all of these bolts away, and then we can remove these covers. They are easy to take when those bolts are away, and then when I have taken those bolts away, we continue. Okay, and I am now taking these bolts away in this upper area, and it works in that way, and then only a little bit rotation, and this bolt opens, and there is then second in here. There is second, and I take also that away. Then there is next one is the lower area, that area. And in here is next one. What is it? That one I have 3 bolts in here. One is the left, and then I can take this upper cover. Okay, cool. And now I can take this cover out in here. And this is plastic and easy to take out. And then I do same in these below upper covers in here. And then we continue. Okay, and then I take these covers out in here below area, and when all bolts are free, this upper one is that part is in here a little bit difficult, but when I little bit bend that in that position, and then I take my hand in here, I can take that out, and then maybe this okay. And let's look that closer, how I take that. Now these parts are free, and then I little bit bend that, I remember that this was then easy to lift. Okay, in that way, and okay, now this opens, and this below areas okay, now it's in that position, and then I continue. Okay, and then when I bend that little bit in that position, it opens nicely. Yeah, there was a little bit bending in that position. Okay, and now it's free, and here we can see this timing belt, and then we can continue. Okay, and then when we are in that position that we have managed to take these covers out, and also this cylinder head, this cover out, then we need to do a couple of things. First thing is that we need to take these all spark plugs what are in these holes, we need to take those all of these 4 spark plugs away, and I have already made those. And then when this spark plugs is away, then it is easier to rotate this timing belt. And then we need to do a couple of things. We need to set up this our timing, this camshaft, this timing belt big wheel, this metallic wheel position, that there is this hole what is in here. In that hole it is in up one, and then we need to set up that hole in that other side. There is similar small slot. Let's go to look. That in here there is that slot, that they are in same line. This is like adjusting. There is this small slot in here, and then in this wheel we can see that there is also this little bit better view, that there is this hole in also in that area. And then when those 2 lines match, we can think that now this timing belt, it has been adjusted in this position number 1 cylinder position, is good, this changing point. And then it's also good to measure that when we have clean this screwdriver, and when we insert that in here, and now we can feel that it take contact, not in that tube, it take contact to piston. And then we have this bigger, this tool, like this wrench, and we can install that wrench. There is 2 positions in here, those positions where we can insert that tool. It is in that one and in that one, but it's good to insert in that slot, because there is just place in that tool in that way. Now it's good. And then it's good to rotate that engine in this clockwise, and it is that rotation, and it means that always in that way, this is the rotation, not in anti-clockwise, because there can be some issues. And then when we need to adjust that I only move a little bit that my tool when we are checking that hole. Now this hole moves, and then I set up that hole in just in this up position, and also then I checked that other side, that there is this line in just in place, and then I go to check that is this my line in there. I look in that direction, in up down in here, and then I check that okay, now it's fine. Okay, excellent. And now this part is okay, and in that way I recommend that we take our paint. We use some painting, and then I recommend that we have white paint, and I have in here this Toyota Touch Up paint, what is white, and I do that it's good to do in here markings when we are planning to replace, that we remember if there is some mistake, that what is this position, and in that position we had belt in here and also in that way. It's good. Now we remember. This is when we take that out, we can remember that in that way, and then it's good to insert in that engine block also a little bit white, and also in here white. It's like signal that we remember that this is okay. And then we need to go to do those markings also in here, this crankshaft area. Crankshaft area in here, and then we look next this lower area when I a little bit lift that engine. Okay, and soon we continue. Okay, and now there is this engine, this engine oil area in here, and in here we have this timing belt, and then I can take this one plate away, and here is important that this upper area, there is this metallic plate, or actually this metallic pin what is in here, that it is in this up direction. It is this important thing. And in that position, when we need to do these paintings, I recommend that we insert this painting now in I take first that plate out, and then I do this my measurement in here. I insert in that position, just in here, and then there is line, and then I think that I like to insert in here second thing also, that when these lines are okay, I remember that now this belt is in right position, and when I remember that this upper thing what is in here, this metallic pin, and that one is in line, everything is fine, and I add also in here this white arrow. And these paintings are really useful if we become confusing, because this belt's position is very critical. It must be just in same position within 1 millimeter, or actually it is smaller, like 0.1 millimeter. It must be just in that place. Okay, and now when I have made those my markings, I can do so that I can open this locking bolt in here, what keeps this tensioner in this position, in that one. And this is my next job. Okay, then I need that kind of bar, and there is my socket, what size is 10 millimeter, 10, and it fits that hole. And then I only take my hand in here, and I rotate and I open that bolt. And now this tensioner is soon, and I a little bit open that. I can adjust that belt. Okay, and I open that more, and idea is that now I loosen this timing belt when this becomes, and soon I will show that what to do next. Okay, and now when this bolt is enough loosened, it starts to move in that way, and then when it moves, we can do so that I can rotate that central bolt out, and then when I a little bit move that, this tensioner goes away in this locking position, what is in here, in that there is this position. And then also this my spring goes away, and there is this spring locking position. It is in there. There is this small place where this tensioner goes in that way, and then this spring is in that way, and then when we insert that belt back, first we insert that in here, and this idea is that when this tensioner is free, there is the spring, and this small spring, it controls when I insert that new belt back, and then be carefully that you don't rotate that crankshaft. And when it comes in here, this belt in that way, and then when we insert that, now when I insert the same position, and then when this belt is in position, then this tensioner automatically takes contact, and then we need to only fasten this central bolt. Okay, but it's a little bit later when I have installed new belt and this tensioner. Okay, and then this tensioner is free. I take the central bolt out and that away, and there is this spring, and then this belt is also free, and then we go to look to new parts. Okay, and now when this belt is away, we need to notice that we need to actually a little bit lift up this engine, because there is this old belt and I can't take that belt away because that mounting, this supporting is in position in here. That we need to lift up a little bit that car in that hook, or then we can insert our jack in below of engine and a little bit lift that engine up. And then this security thing, what we need to do always. When this upper, this cam shaft, this timing belt feel is marked in here, and this hole and then this line is same position, we need to also measure that this piston, this first piston must be in up position. And it's easy to check before that when we rotate that camshaft in here, that is this in up when we compare in that previous one what is down. This is like piston is now down because it goes deeper, but this must be also in this up position, the opposite position in here. We can hear this knob. Okay, this is also security thing. And of course these spark plugs must be away. All. Okay, and then we go to look those new parts. Okay, and here are my old parts. This is this timing belt. What is interesting, it looks very good, even that there's mileage almost this 100,000 kilometers and like 70,000 miles, and it looks good. And then I have in here my new parts, and I recommend always that it's good to go to purchase these Toyota's original parts, because they are the most highest quality, and we only visit in this Toyota dealership center, and then we can guarantee that these are in high quality parts in like USA, US and in Europe and all other countries. Okay, and there now I purchased this new timing belt, and then this tensioner. There is new tensioner. Okay, and I planned, and then of course this spring, this is also, if you like to be 100% sure, this spring is also good to be purchased, and that cost about $7. And this is, we can also find this from this Toyota dealership center, and that quality. Okay, and then this bolt, I think that this bolt, I can reuse that bolt, and then we only check that this bolt, these parts should be very similar. As we can see, these tensioners, they are same, and then the other sides are also, and then this belt, it is the final check that belt, they look similar, and then I can actually measure that is there any difference when we have new belt and then this old belt. They should be, I think that they should be the same. Okay, this upper one is old one and lower one is this new one. Of course there can be some stretch, but I think that these should be the same. see anything. I think that they are same length, what is good. And then we can see that is there any difference. This new one looks a little bit better than that old one, but both are good. But actually this old one, this is not anymore good because there is so much mileage in here, and that can go broken. Okay, but then we go to install these parts back, and first step is to insert that timing belt, and let's go to do that next. Okay, and next important thing, when we had these white markings in this old timing belt, next I am planning to do similar markings in that my new belt. And this job starts so that I insert that my new belt in same position, and actually in this down area, and I start my job so that first I do these markings in here, two, first one in that way. Now we have this first markings, and then second I calculate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in that position we have to be really carefully that we just insert this in same way. Okay, and this was easy, and then I need to calculate that upper one, that white position also in here, and in that position we have to be really carefully, and when we can insert that our old belt in that position, but we can't compress that together. No, now I saw that do not ever handle this timing belt so that you compress that in that way. I will show to you that what not to do. Okay, hello. And then I like to show that what do not do that, because this is timing belt, and do not ever compress that belt in together like in that way, because then we can damage this belt. Do not ever do like that. And now why I made that, there is reason that this is old belt what I am replacing, but do not ever handle timing belt like in that, because this is so sensitive part. Not ever, no, this is forbidden. Always keep timing belt in that kind of position, that it's curve. Okay, this is really important. And in here, this lower area, I have new belt, and I handle it really carefully. Always that there is these curves in that way. No ever that we compress that in together, like I made, and I saw this. It was my mistake. Always handle these timing belts really carefully, because this is the most critical part in our cars. Where is this timing belt? Okay, and then we continue. Okay, and now I am doing this, the second, this most difficult marking, what is this up marking in this new belt, and I noticed that when I insert these belts in that way together, and there are those heels are in same way, then I can easily, I can go through these heels so long that this white part takes contact. Okay, and soon when I have managed to check that in 2 times, we continue, and I do also markings in that new belt also, and soon we continue. Okay, and now I have managed to do that new marking. It is in here, that belt in here below, this is new one, that, and this upper one is old one. And now I have in here those my markings, one in here and 2 in here, and then it's good to check again that everything is okay, so that I insert this my belt in here, and this, in that point we need to double check all of these things. I think that my recommendation is 3 times, Now I check that this all lines are in same, and then when they go nicely in here, I can double check that are these two. Okay, and that's look excellent. Now we can check that they are really in same line when I insert these in together. Yes. Okay, now everything is fine, and I can go to install that new timing belt because markings are matched, and let's go to do that next. Okay, and now there is situation that in that step I lift up a little bit that engine that I can insert that timing belt. And here is this my new timing belt, and in that hole I need to lift up that I can insert that belt through that thing, and then I carefully, and now we have to be so carefully that we don't rotate anything of these metallic fields and these things, because now they are in this position. And then when this is in fine in here, we go to look then this lower area, because this must be in that position. Good, excellent. And then we go to look that down area next. Okay, and then when we are going to insert this tensioner in down, it's good to lift down this car engine, because now it is a little bit up, and for that I lift this my engine down in there next, and it is easier to work in here down area. Okay, and now when we have this new timing belt, first I insert that in here this down area, in that position, and now I remember that I need to do one thing, because I have these markings in here. I need to go to mark that my this new belt in same way, and let's go to do that next. I missed that. Okay, and now engine is a little bit up, because this my carrying belt lift that up, and there is my new belt, and there is my markings in this upper one and these lower markings, and then I insert my belt carefully in here, and there is this my upper mark in that position, and now it's easy to insert this my belt in same position in that way, and then in central position in that wheel. Note that it must be in central. Excellent, it is there, and look, now there are those white lines are. Okay, and then we go to insert this lower area, and for that it's good to insert that belt in so that it goes easily in here down. Okay, and then also check that and now do not rotate that wheel, and it must be, we have to handle that really carefully. Okay, that way, and that looks also good. Okay, and then we go to look that lower area next. Okay, and now we are in that position, and I take a little bit more light that we can see that there was this my white marking what goes in here, and that white marking goes in here, and then in here up one in that position there is then this spring support pin in there, in that part, in that this position goes this support pin and spring, and here is I start that my job so that I install first this tensioner, And I start this job so that I insert first this spring, that part, this part in here. And I insert that firstly in this locking position. And then note that there is specific hole in this pin. Remember, this is important. Let's go to look that. Because if we do miss in there is, when we look in that side, we can see that there is this small this in there, just in this bolt. When we look, there is small this hole where this pin must go. Remember that. This is important. This spring must go in that hole. Okay, and then good. Looks good. And I do that again. I take my this part, and then we can feel that when this spring is this position. Okay, now it's in this position, and then I insert that spring. There is this, sorry, not the spring, this tensioner in that hole. Look, there is this hole in this my thumb here. It must be in there, and then this upper area, there is this bolt place, and then we check that is the spring okay. Okay, it looks good, and then that is okay, and then we can even in final step to test a little bit. But next I take this bolt, this tensioner locking bolt, and it comes in here, and then I rotate that a little bit, and then I need to rotate that. Okay, now it happens that this part moves, and it means that the tensioner spring is okay, but that part is not, and I need to a little bit move that in there, and then I check that in that position, and spring is also, and then I fasten this bolt more. Okay, looks good, and then it's good to keep this bolt a little bit loosen, because soon when I am inserting the timing belt, what comes in here, it comes in that position in here, and then it's good to move that tensioner using our hands, and then I have to insert these my markings in those below area markings, and let's look at how this happens, how I can do that. And before of that I check that everything is here fine, and then I start to move that the tensioner in. Actually, I think that I can insert that in here, and then I fasten that central bolt. Yes, this is the trick. Okay, and next I load this tensioner in the most leftist position, so that I press my hand in that direction, and then at same time I fasten that central bolt, and then it is easier to insert that timing belt. And let's look at how I managed to do that. First I move that, and in that position, and now I fasten that central bolt. I lock that, and I open it later. Okay, now it's like locking position. Good, and then it's easier to install this my timing belt in here, in this position. Okay, in that way. Good. Now they are in these right lines in here, and in that this is in here and second in here, and then I noticed that this upper belt opens, and let's go to look that next. Okay, and now when this belt went in different position, I need to insert that white line in that white line, and carefully I insert that in here. I check that in what position I can insert that in here. And I check that what is this right way. Right way to insert. I check that these are here, and then I check that now in that position, this my white line should go in here. And let's go to look in that area also. In that area I can see that now this white line is going just in directly. And then I only need to do so that when this is in that way, that now I think that maybe I can a little bit rotate this my camshaft carefully in that position, and then I believe that this is my timing chain, and now I move that in clockwise in that way. Carefully. Now it went in there. Then I take a little bit back. Okay, now I check that is this my white line in right position, and excellent, it is in just in right position, and then I go to this down area to check that is my line also in there in this right position, and then I need to check also that this my timing belt is in just in this central position in here. Okay, and let's go to look then this lower area. Okay, now we are in this down area, and we can see that now this timing belt is in just in right position when we look those white things, and then it's good to move that timing belt so that it is just in same line as this crankshaft pulley feel. And now when this belt is in right position, I can open this locking bolt and release. This is important thing, that I release now this spring, this tensioner's spring, and it happens so that I open that bolt a little bit, and then we check that what is this belt's thickness, and it seems that this looks good, and now this belt is tight in here, and when this is little bit loosen, it's good to go to rotate a little bit this upper this camshaft wheel, that this belt moves nicely. And let's go to rotate that, and final step is to then tighten this tensioner bolt in tight position. Okay, and now when this belt is back, it's time to rotate that belt 2 full turns. Like when there is this one white marking in here, it must be rotated 2 times, and then this belt, this pre-rotation is ready, and this rotation happens so that we need that tool what fits in that line, and be carefully that you have just suitable tool, no any tongs in here, and then we only rotate in that turn, that this white rotation is in that way, and that I rotate in this way, then 2 turns is good amount, and then we check that and now notice that this tensioner is not yet fastened. It is like still free, but this is like pre-rotation, and there is this, there is that. Then I check that when we have, there is this. Now we have rotate that 1 turn, and then we have second turn coming in here. Okay. And now I wait that when this white thing. Okay, this was a little bit too big. Okay, and now I think that there is that. I need to still rotate it. Okay, and now this my marking is in here up, and now I have rotated that 2 total turns. Okay, good. And then I think that I can rotate this this upper wheel in this number 1 piston position, so that there is this white paint, and that one is in here. And then I test my screwdriver, that is this, yes, there is piston in there, and there is not. Okay, good. Okay, now this is in this fine position, and then we can go to fasten this pillow bolt next, this tensioner bolt next. Okay, and then I fasten this tensioner central bolt that way, and then I use my Toyota French tool, and I insert in here this force in first step 40 40 Newton meters. In 40, there is my tool, there is 40, because I think that this bolt must be fastened, and carefully I insert in here, and then okay, now there is 40. Okay, good, and then we continue. Okay, and then this plate, it becomes in here, good, and then we continue. Okay, and then I install these plastic covers back in here, and I install those bolts in there. And then when these are back, we continue. Okay, and now when this belt is ready in there and everything should be fine, we need to do one final test, and it is the stretch test, that when we press in our finger in here, that how much this belt take this stretch. And let's look closer. Okay, and just in that position where this belt is very long and there is alternator in here, we go to this middle point, and then we press our finger a little bit, like a couple of, like in finger press, like 5 kilos wash, and then we check that how much this belt takes easily this stretch when we look in here down. And there should be this test result that in just in this central area in here, in that point, and I use my screwdriver in this middle point, it should move something like 0.22 inches or 0.5 centimeters easily, this stretch in that way. And now I think that, and it is central point to this maximum movement, and I think that now this my stretch is just fine, and there is no any issues. And let's go to look also in that area what I am meaning, that there is this belt, and then I take a little bit bigger view. This is this final test, that when there is this belt in here, that how much it moves when I carefully press that. And if this belt moves like 1 inches in other ways, then this our belt is too tight. And then if we can't move that anything, then this belt is too tight. Remember, there is not good that this belt is too loosen, and not good that it is too tight. Because if this is too tight, it can go broken, and if this is too loosen, this belt can jump in these feet and teeth in here, and then our engine is in bad condition. But now I think that this belt looks, this is of course more loosen than that one, because there is this constant tensioner, this force. But this looks good. Okay, and this was this final testing, that how much this stretch easily in here. And the amount was 0.5 millimeters in this central line in here. 0.5, it is something like 0.5 millimeters. Sorry, 0.5 centimeters and or 5 millimeters or 0.22 inches. Okay, and then we continue. Okay, and now I have installed these covers in here, and now I have this 10 millimeter socket, and I fasten these bolts in here. And there we had all of these bolts were that size. They look like that. 10 millimeter. What belongs to these plastic covers in here. Okay, good. And then I have fastened these covers Then I will install this spark plug back in here, and after that we continue then this our project. Okay, and now I have installed these plastic covers in here, that area, and now I am installing this cylinder head cover back, and spark plugs are in there, and then I finish these final things, and soon we continue again. Okay, and then I installed this crankshaft puller fill back, and there is idea that there is this hole in up, and there is also this pin, and then just in when we look that it goes nicely, we need to only press that in there, and then we can use hammer and little bit hammer it in there. And the final step is that big bolt what we insert in here, and then when I fasten that bolt, the final step is that I fasten that bolt very tight. The force is 100 Newton meters is this force. And here is this my torque reference, and there should be Newton meters 100 is this force in this torque reference tool, and 17mm socket, and it fits in there, and I can fasten that in here, and let's look that how long I can fasten that. Okay, now it starts to move, and that means that now I need to insert that my specific tool in these bolts that I can fasten that. And soon we continue. Okay, and here is this my specific tool. What I insert in here, and then I need to rotate that I can insert that second thing also. Now it's there good, and then I can start to fasten, and let's look, there is this my tool, it is in there, and then I need to keep my hand in here, and then let's look. Okay, a little bit shorter tool that I can fasten. Okay, I need. Now I have in here this shorter bar in here, and it is easier to fasten. Okay, and let's see that when we hear this click. Okay, good. Now there is force 100. Excellent, and there is my torque reference tool, and now this area is fine. Excellent, and we continue then. Okay, and then I need to install this engine mounting back, and there was those two bolts what goes in here, and next I need to little bit lift that engine up that I can install these bolts in here, and those bolts were in that down area. I can rotate those bolts in there. Okay, and this is my next job then. Okay, and here are those my two bolts, and there is this mounting, and these bolts becomes in here. I install that in here, and then I rotate this. Then I need to go to wood, and that one, and then I insert one bolt. One bolt in here. In that position. Okay. And then I insert these bolts back and we continue then. Okay, and now I have installed this right mounting and it's in position, and then I continue to next step. Okay, and then I have installed this drive belt back, and I have job that I have this my 13mm socket and friends, and now I am fastening that belt, and it takes couple of minutes. Then I move my tool in here, and then when this is enough tight, we continue. Okay, and then when we fasten that drive belt in here, there is important that we don't fasten that too much, and also it is not loosen. An idea is that when I can press that belt using my finger and it goes down something like half centimeters or something like centimeters, it is okay, and in inches something like 2.35 inches to maybe a little bit more. And then this idea is the central part. Now I think that this is good, and then final bolt is that I need to fasten that bolt, and it was this little bit bigger. It was 15. Is this 15 or 14? Now I have 15. Yes, it is 14mm. 14mm. This is like, now I lock this alternator. Good, this is like locking. And then there was this second final bolt in here below, what I need to also lock, and let's go to do that next. Okay, and there we can see this alternator, and in that bolt, this is this locking bolt, and for that we need 12mm socket. And then I fasten also that bolt. Actually it is, sorry, it was wrong way. Now I fasten that. Okay, good. Okay, good. And now this drive belt is okay, and also alternators, locking bolts are fine. And now this timing belt replace is ready, and then we can continue. And thank you for watching that video, and have a nice day to you.